What is up, guys? Alex here from AttackOnClass.com, coming to you with a full review of the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K4. This is a mainstream value board with overclocking capabilities for gamers out there. You can do AMD Crossfire for multi-GPU support. It can overclock the memory up to 3866. It's got a nice red and black motif, kind of a classic gaming design with large heat sinks for your MOSFET and your chipset. And on the back right there, we have some shielding for your I/O and your sound card right there in the black motif. Speaking of the sound card, we have a nice value here because it can give you 7.1 surround, and the LAN is a Killer E2400 LAN, which gives you packet prioritization for your games. Lastly, it's got 2 BIOSes because it's a ASRock board. Nice value here for about 8,000 pesos. We're gonna review this guy right now. We'll see you guys in just a bit. All right, so here's what's inside the box. We have a black, nice looking back I/O panel right there. We have a quick installation guide, a software setup guide. We have the motherboard itself right here. We have a M.2 screw, that's 1 screw right there, a certificate for 3 months of XSplit. We have the motherboard drivers right here with a sticker, and 4 SATA 3 cables. Also, you can get Assassin's Creed Syndicate from their website if you register your purchase. The box itself is a nice looking black box with a nice praying mantis logo there, the Fatal1ty logo right there, and some information about the features inside. On the back, we have more information about the features, including a picture of the motherboard itself and highlighting the Nichicon Platinum capacitors, which is very nice because they last longer. All right, so let's take a look at the design of the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K4. It's, like I said, a black and red design, very classic. If you are building a value gaming rig, this is probably the best color you need to get because a lot of components come in red and black. Now, like I said before, it is a nice looking design with I/O shielding on the back in the red and black motif. The red heat sinks right there are really nice. It also has this ASRock Fatal1ty silver shiny logo right there. Unfortunately, if you're going to mount a big graphics card on there, it does cover up the logo. Looking at the back here, as you can see, it's a nice glass black fabric PCB, which protects from short circuit. And you'll see the heat sinks on the MOSFET and the chipset are actually screwed in there, not just stuck on there, which is kind of nice. Now, you might have noticed this earlier. This is an ATX board, but it's missing a little bit on the right side, about an inch. But that just basically means some of the ports are moved to the top of the heatsink on the chipset and the bottom of it. Now, ASRock talks about this a lot. These are the 12K Nichicon capacitors, which last about 20% longer than your typical high-end capacitors, which is very, very good for this kind of board. All right, so here on the processor side, we have the 10-phase power design with the red aluminum alloy heat sinks. That's pretty nice. Near the back of the board here, you'll see the Purity Sound 3 with the shielding to prevent interference, and it's got a premium amp that goes up to 600 ohms to drive your demanding headphones. All right, so looking at the back right here, protected by the I/O shield, which is nice, anti-static feature. We have the PS2 mouse and keyboard port for old keyboards and mice. We have a USB 2.0 here, USB 2.0 over there. This is the Fatal1ty mouse port to change the polling rate on your mouse if you want to. We have a DVI port right there, HDMI, USB Type-C over there, which is a nice future-proof feature. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 USB 3.0, very nice for a lot of your peripherals. And we have the Killer E2400 LAN port right there. We have the optical audio cable right here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3.5 millimeter headphone jacks or jacks for your surround sound audio and microphone. All right, so keen observers would have probably already noticed this, but aside from the fact that the board has a nice black and red motif here, there is no LED lighting or runway strips that point to certain parts of the board with a lighting feature. This is, like I said, a value mainstream board that you would put in a case and not want to spend more money on certain features like extra lighting. In fact, the only lights that come out of this board is the one that indicates which BIOS you're booting from, which is indicated here or here. All right, so as far as building on the motherboard goes, it actually is fairly easy. All of the connectors are easy to reach. As you can see, we have a CPU fan header right here. We have another right here if you have a sort of dual fan heatsink setup. The CPU power goes through here, pretty easy to handle. And the 24 pin for the motherboard is right here. Here is your USB 3.0. And the only different thing right here is the SATA ports, which are, two of them are here and a couple of them are here as well. Now, this is unusual because most of the SATA ports are over here and pointing towards us, not upwards or vertically. But that's a minor thing. And also, I like the placement of these SATA ports because instead of having my SATA port coming towards me, I had one going down here for easy cable management. Now, you might have noticed as well, there is no extra buttons on this board. There is no power button, reset button, or temperature indicator or stuff like that. Those are usually present in more expensive boards. But since this is a value board, I'm not complaining that it's not around. All right, so here's something inconvenient with this board a little bit. Here is the Ultra M.2 slot, and it sits right under the PCIe 16X slot, the first one where your graphics card will likely sit. This means that if you want to put in a new Ultra M.2 or remove that Ultra M.2, you'll have to take away the GPU, which is a little bit of a bummer. All right, so speaking of PCIe slots, we have 5 of them instead of the usual 7. That's to lower the cost of the board itself. As you can see, we have a ×1 right here, ×16, a gap, another ×1, a ×16, another gap, and another ×1. Now, you can put any kind of board on the ×1 since it will allow bigger boards on there, but as you can see, they also feature the gaming armor, sort of reinforced slots for maximum durability. All right, so like I said before, you can do AMD Crossfire on these ×16 slots right here, but unfortunately the board does not support SLI, and that's probably like the biggest disadvantage on this board, even though most people that will buy this board and build this system will probably not need 2 GPUs. All right, so I hear you ask, how is the performance of the board? And yes, the board performs quite admirably. The BIOS allows for some preset overclocks, and you have an easy mode and an advanced mode for people who want to do more with their motherboard. For overclocking, you have control over voltage, LLC, DRAM overclocking, and stuff like that. Now, if you want to do all that overclocking stuff on your Windows, you can install the FStream overclocking tool, which gives you access to most of UEFI settings and gives you graphs for fan speed, and you can actually tweak the fan speed as well. Now, this particular motherboard actually used to come with a firmware that allows you to overclock non-unlocked chips, but recently they've patched that out, so you need an unlocked K CPU to overclock with this board now. The Purity Sound 3 bass and clarity over here on the soundboard did not disappoint. The quality is amazing and the bass is very, very good. Plus, you get the 5.1 DTS Connect surround sound, which is a big bonus if you're a big fan of surround sound. We're also a big fan of Killer LAN, and this performed quite well as well because we were playing video games online and streaming it through YouTube and Twitch, and we didn't find any issues with our gaming packets. Lastly, while motherboards usually don't do a lot when it comes to changing your benchmarks, when it comes to CPU and graphics capabilities, we did do some benchmarks for you, and we got a 6,222 points on 3D Mark Firestrike. Keep in mind, we're using a low-end graphics card, the 760 right now. On Cinebench, we got 124.17 FPS on OpenGL, and 812 CB on the CPU test. Alright guys, so I think that's about it for our full review of the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K4. And it's quite attractive, and the budget price is quite nice. Overclocking is there as well, and you got all the features that you will need for a mainstream gaming setup. So let's talk about the pros and cons. Number one is the Killer LAN and 7.1 surround sound. Most boards that are Z170 of this price range do not have Killer LAN packet prioritization and the 7.1 surround sound. Now, the number 2 pro is that it doesn't make any sacrifices when it comes to performance. Now, more expensive motherboards would have more bells and whistles, but when it comes to performance, all everything that you need is already on the board. Number 3 Pro is the easy overclocking features, which you can do in the BIOS or the software. And another pro is that I feel that there's a lot of USB 3.0 here, including the front headers, which is great because I've been using a lot of these USB 3.0s. I have a lot of peripherals, and these have been really helpful. Also, the M.2 slot is also amazing because it future-proofs your system when you upgrade your storage. Another pro is that it's using some high-quality materials and parts, including the Nichicon 12K capacitors and the black fabric PCB. Lastly, another pro is the crossfire support should you look into AMD's graphics cards. Now, like I said, if you're looking for more bells and whistles, that would be a con for you. So we're talking about the cons of the motherboard now. It doesn't have any Bluetooth, any Wi-Fi, no LED lights or anything. So you will have to expand on the LED lighting if you want to make your case or the motherboard inside your case look nicer. And the number 2 con, and I think this is the biggest one out there, is that there's no SLI support, giving you no capability of using 2 Geforce GTX graphics cards on your system. Most of the time though, you'll just need to use one of them, but if you are looking into expanding into dual GPU support, I would suggest getting a AMD card because Crossfire is supported. All right, so conclusion time on the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K4. Now, it is an attractive, affordable, overclockable motherboard with extra features like Killer LAN and surround sound, which is very nice. Its only main issue is the lack of SLI, but if that doesn't bother you, the Fatal1ty Gaming K4 is a great board and we're giving it our highly recommended award. So yeah, you should check this guy out. It's about 8,000 pesos. We really like it, and overclocking features are really nice for this kind of board, plus the 7.1 surround sound and the Killer LAN. Those are definitely things you would want in a gaming motherboard. Anyway, that's it for us. Alex from TechnoClass.com here. Thanks for watching, and that has been the review of the ASRock Fatal1ty Z170 Gaming K4. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.